Syria is a country that is currently resonating with the sound of bombs, and has become a stage for a very heartbreaking humanitarian tragedy. Yet, in the past, Syria was famous as a center of ancient civilization, cultural richness, and fertile land that promised a lot. Syria was once a giant theater stage where great civilizations staged dramas of glory and collapse. This land has witnessed the footsteps of pharaohs, listened to the thunderous speeches of Roman emperors, and felt the gentle touch of Sufis. It is also here, in the land irrigated by the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, that the first alphabet was born, magnificent cities were built, great kingdoms rose and fell, and then left behind an invaluable legacy for civilization. Damascus, also known in the Syrian language as Damascus, is often referred to as the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world. The history of this city stretches back thousands of years and has been a silent witness to the ebb and flow of civilization. In the 7th century, Damascus reached the peak of its glory when it became the capital of the Umayyad dynasty, the first Islamic caliphate that stretched from Spain to India. Under the rule of the caliph, Damascus developed rapidly. The Umayyad Mosque, built on the site of a Roman temple and a Byzantine church, became a symbol of Islamic architectural glory and one of the largest mosques in the world. The massive dome that shines, the mesmerizing mosaics, and the aura of sanctity emanating from the mosque have captivated many people. Souk al-Hamidiyya, a traditional market that has been the heart of Damascus trade for centuries, its narrow and roofed corridors are filled with the aroma of spices, shining silk fabrics, intricate handicrafts, and the hustle and bustle of bargaining. Walking through the labyrinth of these shops becomes a sensory experience that takes us back to the past. Damascus became one of the centers of the Silk Road trade. The old city of Damascus, surrounded by robust Roman walls, narrow street labyrinths, traditional houses, lush courtyards, mosques, historical churches, and more, makes every stone that is stepped on a silent witness to the passage of time. Therefore, UNESCO recognizes the old city of Damascus as a World Heritage Site. However, prolonged conflict has devastated the city, destruction that seems impossible to recover from. Palmyra, an ancient city that was once one of the most important centers of trade and culture in the world, its magnificent ruins towering under the scorching sun become a kind of sorrowful poem that tells the story of glory and destruction. Entering Palmyra through a majestic colonnaded street flanked by towering pillars is like entering a gateway to the past. This street, once filled with statues and monuments, stretches over 1 kilometer, connecting various parts of the city, including the Temple of Bel, Theater, Agora, and Baths. The Temple of Bel, built to honor the Mesopotamian god Bel, is one of the most important buildings in Palmyra. Its unique architecture, a blend of Greco-Roman and Near Eastern styles, reflects the cosmopolitan character of Palmyra as a crossroads of cultures. This temple is a symbol of tolerance, a place where various religions were practiced side by side. However, in 2015, ISIS blew up the Temple of Bel, a brutal act that shocked the world and became a symbol of destruction for cultural heritage. Syria is also home to Aleppo, or Halab, which is one of the oldest cities in the world with a history spanning over 5,000 years. Located at the crossroads of the Silk Road, Aleppo became a very important center of trade, culture, and science. For centuries, this city has been famous for its magnificent citadel, beautiful mosques, bustling souks or markets, and rich culinary traditions. The Aleppo citadel, standing robustly on a hill towering over the city, is one of the largest and oldest citadels in the world. Its long and complex history reflects the history of Aleppo itself, which has been besieged, conquered, and rebuilt many times. This citadel has witnessed battles between various civilizations, from the Hittites, Assyrians, Romans, Byzantines, Arabs, to the Ottomans. The souk or market of Aleppo, listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is one of the oldest and longest souks in the world. Its winding and roofed corridors are filled with shops selling various goods, from spices and textiles to jewelry and handicrafts. This souk is the heart of Aleppo, where the pulse of city life is felt most strongly. However, unfortunately, the fierce battles in Aleppo have destroyed much of this souk, turning it into rubble and leaving a deep wound for the city. The Great Mosque of Aleppo, also known as the Umayyad Mosque of Aleppo, is one of the oldest and most beautiful mosques in the world. Built in the 8th century by the Umayyad dynasty, this mosque is famous for its magnificent architecture, spacious courtyard, and iconic minaret. The minaret, built in the 11th century, is one of the most iconic architectural works in the Islamic world. However, in 2013, the minaret was destroyed. On the Mediterranean coast stands Ugarit, an ancient city-state that once became a center of trade and culture. Although Ugarit may not have the grandeur of Damascus or other ancient cities, it holds a special place in the history of human civilization. It was here, in the 14th century BC, that the Ugaritic scribes created one of the first alphabetic systems in the world, consisting of 30 cuneiform characters. The discovery of the Ugaritic alphabet later revolutionized the way humans communicated and recorded history, paving the way for the development of literacy and the spread of knowledge. Of course, Syria is not just a country with magnificent monuments and historical sites. It is also home to a rich and diverse cultural mosaic. For centuries, various ethnic and religious groups have lived side by side in this land, each contributing unique threads to the fabric of Syrian culture. Syria is home to various ethnic groups, including Arabs, who are the majority population of the country. In addition, there are significant Kurdish communities, especially in the northeast, as well as Armenian, Assyrian, Turkmen, Circassian, and other smaller groups. Each of these ethnic groups has its own unique language, culture, and traditions, adding to the richness and diversity of Syrian culture. Syria is also a country with high religious diversity. Islam is the majority religion, with the majority of Syrian Muslims adhering to the Sunni branch. In addition, there is a significant Christian community that has existed in Syria since the early spread of Christianity. The Syrian Christian community includes various denominations, such as Greek Orthodox, Syriac Orthodox, and Catholic. There are also smaller communities such as Alawite, Yazidi, and Jewish. This diversity adds to the richness of Syrian history and culture. However, it also poses a challenge to the country, especially in the context of prolonged conflict. Syria also has strategic natural resources, such as oil and gas reserves, fertile land, and water resources. This has made it a coveted prize for various parties, both domestic and foreign, exacerbating divisions, funding armed groups, and hindering peace efforts for the sake of gaining benefits. Before the war broke out in 2011, Syria was not a major oil producer globally. However, the country had significant reserves to meet domestic needs and generate valuable export revenue. Statistics show that in 2010, Syria was able to produce around 385,000 barrels of oil per day. Syria's oil reserves are estimated to reach 2.5 billion barrels, while its natural gas reserves are estimated to be around 241 billion cubic meters. Although not as large as the Gulf states, these numbers are more than enough to make Syria a significant player in the global energy market. Most of Syria's oil and gas fields are located in the eastern and northeastern regions. These areas have become battlegrounds between various armed groups, including the Syrian government forces, opposition groups, ISIS, and Kurdish forces supported by the United States. Control over these oil fields has become a crucial source of income for the warring groups, used to fund their military operations and strengthen their grip on power. During its peak, ISIS controlled most of the oil fields in eastern Syria. The group exploited oil on a large scale and sold it on the black market through complex smuggling networks, primarily to Turkey. Revenue from the sale of illicit oil became a primary source of funding for ISIS, estimated to reach millions of dollars per day. After ISIS's territorial defeat, the struggle for control over oil fields in eastern Syria continues. The Syrian Democratic Forces, supported by the United States and led by Kurds, have successfully controlled most of the oil fields in the region. This has created tension with the Syrian government, which is determined to reclaim all of its territory, including strategic oil fields. The United States, maintaining a military presence in northeastern Syria, claims its presence is aimed at preventing ISIS's resurgence and protecting oil fields from falling into the hands of the Assad regime or Iran. However, many believe the primary motive of the United States is to control oil resources and limit Russian and Iranian influence in the region. Before the war, Syria was also one of the world's largest producers and exporters of phosphate. According to data from the U.S. Geological Survey, Syria has phosphate reserves estimated at 1.8 billion metric tons, one of the largest in the world. Phosphate is a primary raw material in the production of fertilizers, which are crucial for increasing agricultural productivity. The main phosphate mines in Syria are located in the Palmyra area, which has become a battleground between government forces and ISIS. ISIS briefly controlled these phosphate mines and exploited them for revenue, although on a smaller scale compared to oil exploitation. Unfortunately, the conflict has led to a drastic decline in phosphate production in Syria. Damaged mining infrastructure, displaced workers, and disrupted transportation routes have caused Syria to lose a significant source of export revenue and potential for developing a strong fertilizer and chemical industry. In addition, Syria's strategic location at the crossroads of Asia, Africa, and Europe, with access to the Mediterranean Sea, makes it a crucial hub for trade and military purposes. Syria shares borders with Turkey to the north, Iraq to the east, Jordan to the south, Israel and Lebanon to the southwest, and the Mediterranean Sea to the west. Its central location has made it a key player in regional geopolitics and a battleground for influence between major powers since ancient times. Various empires and kingdoms have sought to control Syria to dominate trade routes and expand their influence in the region. Countries like Russia, Iran, Turkey, the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, each with their own interests and agendas, have been involved in the Syrian conflict, either directly or through support for various armed groups. This foreign intervention has prolonged and complicated the conflict, turning it into a bloody proxy war. Russia, for example, has long-standing close ties with Syria, which is a strategic ally in the Middle East. Russia has a naval base in Tartus, its only military base outside the former Soviet Union, giving it a significant foothold in the eastern Mediterranean. Russia views Syria as a bulwark against Western influence in the region. In 2015, Russia launched a direct military intervention in Syria to support the Bashar al-Assad regime, which was being pushed back by opposition groups and ISIS. Russian airstrikes successfully turned the tide of the war, helping government forces recapture territories controlled by opposition groups and ISIS. Russia's intervention effectively saved the Assad regime from collapse and solidified Russia's position as a major player in Syria. Beyond strategic interests, Russia also has economic motives in Syria. Several Russian companies have secured contracts for reconstruction and exploitation of Syria's natural resources, particularly in the oil, gas, and phosphate sectors. Russia is also seeking to expand its influence in the Middle East and challenge U.S. dominance in the region. Ultimately, the involvement of multiple countries with conflicting interests has trapped Syria not only in internal conflict and crisis but also in a complex proxy war with the involvement of various foreign nations. Foreign intervention has prolonged the conflict in Syria, transforming a country once renowned for its rich history and culture into a battleground of destruction that seems difficult to recover from.